love Atlanta because I had a life-changing experience here. You know how Dr. Phil says, think of the 7 things that really changed your life? Well, one of the things that changed my life happened right here. It was way back when I was 26 years of age, which was a couple of years ago. And Dick Gregory, who knows who Dick Gregory is? Very famous comedian in the 1960s. Became a vegan, a raw food vegan, a major proponent of juicing. He was sort of like Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead circa 1970. And Dick Gregory was also a civil rights activist, a peace activist, and he had a fast to draw attention to world hunger. So 125 of us from all around the country gathered here in Atlanta at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and we slept on the floor of the gym, and we drank water for 7 days. And he kept us kind of pumped up by having these conference calls with celebrities. So we heard from Muhammad Ali, and we heard from Coretta Scott King, and they were inspiring us. And the very last day, we went out to do a demonstration. And I remember Dick Gregory said, the press will be there. Be sure you're not wearing leather shoes. And I remember thinking, the world is changing, the world is changing. Well, you know what? The world is changing rapidly right now. Things are happening. The world is vegucating, and just this huge crowd here today and a line outside is attesting to that fact. So thank you so much for inviting me to be part of it. So I just want to get a sense of who's here. So when I ask these questions, it's not to see who's cool. We are all cool. Let's say that. We're all cool. Okay, so I want to know who's vegan. Who's just like, vegan? Whoa, okay, taking over the world. You know, we are kind of, sort of taking over the world. This morning I was at the Ardmore Hotel, lovely, lovely hotel, got in the elevator with this grandmother and her little cute granddaughter, and smells of bacon were wafting from the buffet. And the grandmother said, ooh, love the smell of that bacon. And then she looked at her little grandchild like, this is terrible. She said, but you can't have any because you're vegan. And I said, I'm vegan too. Are you here for the VegFest? And the grandmother said, no, she's here for some kind of kiddie beauty pageant. So we're at this interesting time as vegans in that there are a lot more of us than there used to be. It's not unusual to run into one in an elevator, but the hotel still has bacon on the buffet. So I think that we are in this vegan movement kind of where the abolition of slavery movement was around 1800. There was history. People had been working to abolish slavery for over 100 years, but in 1800, it looked like it was going to go on forever. It's a wonderful man I know in New York City, Michael Schwartz. He has a cheese company, Tree-Lined Cheese. Remember Tree-Lined Cheese? They don't have national distribution yet, but they will. And it's so good. Pure as the driven snow, but it's made like European cheese. It's really cultured. It's just delicious. Now, he is from South Africa, and he tells a story that when he left there in the 1980s, he was just fed up. It's like, we got this apartheid thing. It's going to go on forever. I'm just getting out. But he says now when he goes back, everybody says, oh, I was always opposed to apartheid. So I look forward to the day when people say, oh yes, I remember when people ate bacon. Of course, I never did. I am looking forward to when our memories change. So, okay, so who is not vegan yet, but you'd kind of like to be, you're vegetarian, you're moving in that direction? Okay, who is a health-conscious omnivore? Okay, and who just eats anything that looks good? I always love it that there are a few honest people in the room. Okay, welcome everybody. Now most of you are vegan, but I'm going to be talking to the people who aren't. It's like they say in an AA meeting, the most important person in the room is the newcomer. So what I like to do is talk about this word vegan, and I like it. Let me see a show of hands, especially among those of you who eat all from the plant kingdom. Who likes the word vegan? Who thinks it's a good word? Okay, and who thinks it's not such a good word? Okay, few people. Well, I'm going to come down on the like and vegan side, and I'll tell you why. It's because people know what it is. In my local grocery store in Harlem, in New York City, I went in not long ago, and there's this big display of dates in the produce department. And stamped on those date packages, great big green sticker, capital letters, vegan. I mean, it's a fruit. It's always been vegan. But all of a sudden, 2013, it's a selling point. And the idea is, oh, people will buy this because they'll think it's healthy. They'll think it's better than dates that aren't vegan. And even in the scientific literature, when they do the studies where they're looking, like, for example, oftentimes they'll look at Seventh-day Adventists, because this is a Christian denomination where about half the people are vegetarian and about half the vegetarians are vegan and the others eat meat. But none of them drink or smoke, and they all have very similar values and practices, but they like to study this group because of the division about eating meat and animal products. And so when they write these scientific reports in the Journal of the American Medical Association and the Journal of Clinical Nutrition, they'll say vegan. So I figure we've got society trained. You know, I remember back years ago, 30 years ago when I went vegan, 42 years ago when I went vegetarian, that whole word vegan was like weird. You'd say, I'm a vegan. And they'd say, you're what? And isn't that where Spock came from? Or I remember in the early 80s, there was a fellow in Madison, Wisconsin, and he wanted to start a political group, and he was going to call it Vegans for Reagan. But he was the only one to join, and he couldn't even pronounce it, and he was one. So I do like the word. I had James McWilliams on my radio show not long ago. James McWilliams is a professor in Texas. He wrote a book called Just Food, really smart guy. And he said, vegan is a very hopeful term. And I think it's hopeful. It's hopeful for the idea that we're not going to be so sick. I mean, I know how sick we are because I sometimes watch television and I see all the ads. In fact, I even got called in to do an ad. This is so cool. I went to see this agent because I want to get myself out there more in the world, and they're looking at using more people like me who have some kind of expertise in some field to do commercials and things. And actually, it was going very well until he saw my date of birth, and then he just about fainted. And he looked at me like I had come from some other planet and couldn't get me out of his office fast enough. But that's because when you're vegan, you don't look your age, and you kind of scare people. One of the best things that I can do for veganism, for animals, for human health, is to just keep having birthdays. Because I'm 63 years old, and this was not what I ever expected 62 was going to look or feel like. So they called me in for an audition for a supplement. Now, I'd have a problem with a drug because we got animal testing and all that going on, but this was a supplement for men's prostate health. So I got to go in as the middle-aged wife, all excited that her husband isn't getting up in the night to pee. So life is good. And part of the reason, in all honesty and sincerity, that I am living the life of my dreams is that by the grace of God, a long, long time ago, I was introduced to this amazing way of eating and living that makes life so different from the way most people are living. We see people sick, we see people taking all kinds of medications. I went to the hospital where a friend was having shoulder surgery. She'd fallen down the stairs, and the anesthesiologist came in to just see if she was on some medication that would interfere. It was a list like this big. She was 47. This is what I thought people in nursing homes would be taking. This is not right. We're supposed to be healthy and vibrant and vital, and eating this way and thinking positive and taking care of the soul and the body is the way to get there. Now, I do respect that some people don't want to use the word vegan. They think it's divisive or something, and so they like to use other terms, like I guess the most prevalent one is plant-based, although my daughter, when she first heard the word plant-based, she said, that sounds like somebody that eats a lot of salad and smokes a lot of pot. So I am going to share with you today an acronym for the word vegan that'll help you remember and help give you some tips for moving more in this direction if that's something that you want, and for helping you spread the word and get it out to friends and relatives. Now we are coming up on a holiday. This is a holiday that's very interesting because it's about gratitude, and that's such a good thing. And it's about coming together as families and feasting, and that's a good thing. And it's about murdering 46 million turkeys, and that's a terrible thing. And so we're all going to have the opportunity to share a little bit about who we are and what we're about. And we probably don't want to be doing that at the table. You know, when people say, okay, why aren't you eating the turkey? That's not the time for me to give this lecture. So I just usually say something kind of non-committal like, oh, you know, I'm just a health nut. This year next year I'll be looking like a superhero. And just kind of let it go. But then later, you know, during the football game, if somebody is really interested, then you can give them this information. It's not pushing stuff onto people, it's allowing them to know something that can change their lives and change the world. So my acronym for the word vegan is this. V is for validate your choices. That means you gotta know some stuff. So when people ask you things, you'll know what to say. E is to embody a healthy lifestyle. When I became vegan, everybody got healthy because we didn't have any processed foods. Being vegan meant you were protected from baked goods. And now being vegan means you can win cupcake wars. G, that means get to know other vegans. Because when you're all alone doing this, nobody in your family eats this way, nobody at work eats this way, you can start to feel like this lone wolf. And it's sometimes hard to stay with it. So you want to get the meetup group, get organizations, get people around you. A is add more to your life than you subtract. And N is to never forget the animals. So I want to go over each one of these in this time that we have together this morning to help you go out there into the world being stronger and healthier and more vital in your vegan outreach, or if you're just starting out, to help you move a step closer. And every step is good. And you know, every now and then you'll meet one of these holier-than-thou vegans. And they're difficult. But you know what? Every step you take in this direction is helping you, helping animals, and helping this planet. So first, you want to validate your choices by learning to answer the questions you're going to be asked. What is the main question you're going to be asked? Where do you get your protein? And the first thing that you want to do with that question is to not go, ugh. Can't you think of a more creative question? No, because that's the first thing that comes up. It's the first thing that came up for us too. I mean, we all worried about it. People that want to have big muscles, they worry, well, can I build muscle? Will I lose the muscle I've got? People that have had weight issues and they've done the Atkins thing and all that, it's like, oh, am I going to gain weight? You know what? Protein is a non-issue, but it's not a non-issue in people's minds. So you need to have soundbite answers for these questions. Where do you get your protein? What a great question. I used to really worry about that myself until I learned that protein is in everything that grows up out of the ground. The only way you could be protein deficient in this country at this time in history would be if you were to become anorexic and just not get enough calories, become alcoholic and drink all your meals, or live entirely on junk food or only on fruit, which does have some protein, as all natural food does, but a lot of fruit has less than 5% of its calories in protein, as the World Health Organization recommends. Most people, that's enough. They didn't really want to know anyway, they just didn't know what else to ask. But every once in a while, you'll get somebody smart, and they'll say, yeah, but aren't you going to miss some amino acids? And then you can say, you know what, there is one amino acid that if you're eating a high grain diet, you could be a little bit low on, and that's lysine. That's why you want to eat beans. Beans and peas and soy products. And if you don't want to eat beans that day, there are what the dietitian Jenny Messina calls honorary legumes. And that's pistachio nuts and quinoa. So they have that amino acid lysine as well. And it's in everything too. It's just a little bit lower in the grains. Back in the 70s, when a lot of people were macrobiotic and eating a whole lot of rice, you know, they could have been a little bit low on that. It is a non-issue. And finally, what I tell them is that there is an internist out in Santa Rosa, California, John McDougall. Y'all know Dr. McDougall? He put $10,000 in a bank account way back in 1984. And he said this money is for any physician, dietitian, or nutritionist who can come up with a diet comprised of whole plant foods that is deficient in protein. That money is still in the bank, and for the first 20 years it was actually drawing interest. Nobody can take it. That should put the protein question to rest. Come up with your sound bites for calcium. Where do you get your calcium if you don't drink milk? Well, where does calcium come from? It comes from the dirt, but you can't eat dirt. And so what translates calcium into something that is usable by cows, humans, and others? It's the green plants. So the cow gets hers by eating grass. She gets so much of it that people try to get it from her milk. But we can get it from the greens too. And these days, when you can buy every kind of non-dairy milk in a regular supermarket, that's all supplemented with calcium as well. So do you need to just not think about it and never eat greens and never drink non-dairy milk? No, I mean, it's an issue. You want to think about it, but it's so, so easy. And when you learn these simple, simple things, you can answer the questions that matter. Now, sometimes you're going to get questions that are just stupid. Have you ever had one of those? Somebody just trying to trip you up, they'll say, yeah, but if everybody went vegan, what would the cats eat? You know what? We'll figure it out. They're making this meat in the laboratory. How wonderful. That's what the cats can eat. You know, when people decide that they want to do something, they do it. There was a time in the last century when it was believed that if we did not have child labor in this country, that our economy would fall apart. We don't have child labor. We're doing okay. When we're no longer eating animals, we'll do okay. And you know what else? We will be so vibrant. We will be so smart. Our brains will be functioning optimally. What do you think would be going on today in the U.S. Congress if all those people on both sides of the aisle were eating kale? You think maybe a little communication? I think so. So validate your choices. Learn what you need to know about plant-based nutrition, about the vegan lifestyle. And there's so many ways to do that. Online, in books, from the people around here today, from people behind the vendor booths. There's a lot of information in this building right now. Take home as much of it as you can carry. Now, E in the word vegan, that is embody a healthy lifestyle. Now, a lot of people will say, I'm just doing this for the animals. I am just going to eat my cupcakes and have my happy life, and that's good. You are totally entitled to do that. However, people are looking at us. Is that fair? Well, maybe not. But because we're a voluntary minority, people are going to look at us. It'll be like, oh, I knew a vegan once, and that person was sick all the time. That person was vital and delightful. That's the information that's going to be passed along. So when you're thinking about living healthfully, you've got to take good care of yourself on every level. So you want to get some exercise. I wish you didn't have to. I mean, I grew up, I was always the chubby kid. I was picked last for everything. I never bonded with sweat and anything requiring stamina. But, you know, Sometimes there are just laws of physiology and you gotta keep up with them. So take care of yourself, get some sleep. You know, sometimes you'll meet people and they're activists and they want to save the planet and they want to save the animals and they want to save everybody's arteries, and so they're up till 3 in the morning drinking coffee, saving everybody. Go to sleep. You know, there are plenty of us and the world will wake up again tomorrow, so take good care of yourself. And when it comes to choosing your foods, think of having 90% of your diet just pure as can be. We're talking about vegetables and fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds, and you can mix that stuff together and make the most incredible dishes. You could do Ethiopian food, you can do Mexican food, you can do Italian food, you can do Vietnamese food. It's all good. You say to somebody, what do you eat? You say vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, and they're like, not for me. But when you put them all together, it's like the alphabet. A, B, C, D, boring. But you put those letters together, you get Shakespeare. That's exactly what happens with vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Now, we have these days the most amazing vegan foods that replicate non-vegan foods that we all grew up on, and they're comfort foods, and we like them, and we kind of miss them. So when people say, well, I could never be vegan because I just can't give donuts, we get to say, you don't have to. I could never be vegan because I could never give up pizza. You don't have to. You just don't want to have pizza and donuts be the bulk of your diet, or you'll have a lot of the same kinds of trouble that people have who eat the pizza and donuts that has animal food in it. So treat yourself well. Pick food that is so beautiful. I say to the people that I work with, you want your plate and your shopping cart to look like a Christmas tree, mostly green, with splashes of other bright colors. Because that's where those phytochemicals live. That's where all these amazing substances that are going to prevent disease, even cure disease. It's amazing. These things eat up cancer cells. They're like Pac-Man. Remember the old Pac-Man? It's incredible. And then you got 10% for pizza and donuts. Is life good? Life is good. G, get to know other vegans, because we're really interesting and most of us aren't even crazy. It's cool. You want to get to know people in person. That's why an event like this is so wonderful. Because it's great to have 2,500 Facebook friends, but if you wouldn't know half of them if you met them on the street, that's not quite as wonderful as having real people that you can talk to. So you want people that are there for you, so that if somebody says something kind of nasty about, oh, what's that you're eating, you can call somebody up and say, do you know what they just said to me? And they'll say, oh yeah, well you ought to hear what my mother-in-law said last Thanksgiving. And you just have this camaraderie. And then you come to see that we are part of an important and powerful movement that is going to change this world in such beautiful ways and include everybody. You know, when I was writing my book, Main Street Vegan, I had a wonderful publisher, Penguin Books, and the way it works with nonfiction books is that they buy it from a proposal, and then you write the book. So they bought it, we signed the contracts, and everything was wonderful, and the very next day, they said, there's just one thing. We hate Main Street. And I thought, but it has to be called Main Street, because that's the point. You see, there are stereotypes still about vegans. So many people think vegans, oh yeah, they were all at Woodstock, or would have been if they had been born. Or, you know, they're these like celebrities with cooks and chauffeurs and things like that. No, this is for everybody. See, in the olden days, it seemed like this was just kind of a like hippie, left-wing sort of movement, and we thought back then that we were going to get all the like Unitarians and the NPR listeners, and then when we got that group, we could maybe expand. But you know what's happened? And I think it's because of the health aspects of this diet. You know, our arteries are equal. You know, your arteries aren't thing, you know, I'm a liberal artery, I'm a conservative artery. You know, we got arteries. And so this way of eating and living for everybody in this country and on this planet can change everything. And people say, what celebrity would you most want to be vegan? And I say, Rush Limbaugh, because he can reach people that, you know, I might not. So you want to get to know other vegans. We're so cool, we're so interesting, we're so helpful, and most of the time we're even nice. Now, A, that is add to your life more than you subtract. Because most people think, oh, veganism, and sometimes they'll even say that. They'll say, oh, you're a vegan. Well, I try to be healthy, but I'm not as good as you. It's not about good. They have this idea that we're like this stalwart, I don't eat anything. And that is sometimes exacerbated when somebody will say, what's this vegan thing? What's this vegan thing you do? And you think, a live one. And you say, well, as a vegan, you don't eat any meat or chicken or fish or eggs. And that includes in baked goods. You don't eat any dairy products. That includes cheese, which includes pizza, and it includes butter. And if you are an ethical vegan, then you don't wear any fur, leather, suede, wool, silk. You don't use cosmetics or household cleaners tested on animals. He lost you back at butter. He is waiting for the vow of celibacy. So what you need to do and what you need to get out there for people to understand is that this is about more. This is not about less. Yeah, there are some things I don't eat, but oh my gosh, I eat so many more things than I ever ate back then. Do you find that? I mean, what do most people eat? Burger night, taco night, fried chicken night, burger night, taco night, fried chicken. It's not as if they're having this amazing buffet of incredible food all the time. Who's having an amazing buffet of incredible food all the time? We are. And so one way that you can get that idea across is to feed people. You bring the chocolate chip cookies to the office and you just happen to leave little cards with the recipe on it. And you don't want it to say, vegan chocolate chip cookies. You just have the recipe there. And people will put 2 and 2 together and figure out, wow, that was good. And that strange person from accounting brought them. Who would have thought? You want to have people over for dinner, and sometimes you'll surprise them. I can remember having a dinner party once, and the entree was mushroom stroganoff, and this beautiful big salad. And one of the fellows at the end, he said, well, you've done something tonight. And I said, oh, I have, what's that? And he said, I scoped out the McDonald's in the area because I figured I would be hungry and would need to stop by on the way home, but I won't have to stop there. You know, that's a lot. That's something to do. So you feed people. So when you're adding all this stuff to your life, what do you eat? Because people will say that. They'll still say, but what do you eat? Well, the fact is, most of what they eat is vegan. You say, do you ever have spaghetti and tomato sauce? Yeah. You ever have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Well, sure. You ever eat apples and peaches and watermelons? Uh-huh. And when you say, that's all vegan, they kind of start to get it. And sometimes people will say, I don't like vegan food. What they don't like is yeast-encrusted tempeh. Or they think they don't like it because they've never had it, and it sounds very strange, very out there. We had Main Street Vegan Academy just last week in New York City. Star up here in the front row is one of our graduates. She's now a vegan lifestyle coach and educator. And one of the students stayed with me for the week, and my husband, you know, he kind of gets the heck out of town when I bring in 15 people from around the world to train. But the woman who had stayed with us had left a package of this kind of very rustic trail mix. It had squash seeds and pumpkin seeds and some dried mulberries. And my husband came back and he comes out with this baggie and he says, someone left something in our bedroom that looks like what you'd eat if you were lost in the woods. So, you know, there's still a little of that, but there's all the rest too. So you want to add. So what do you eat? One of my mentors in this work is Dr. Adiel Tel-Oren. He is an Israeli medical doctor. He lives in Minneapolis. Has anybody traveled to Minneapolis? Great restaurant he has there called the Ecopolitan. But anyway, he says, well, what I'd like you to do every day is have a great big salad. Now, big and salad, when you're a vegan, especially if you're kind of a high raw Whole Foods type vegan, big whopping salad. Now, I get my salad bowls at the restaurant supply store because they just don't have big enough ones anywhere else. This is my salad bowl. Just for me, because you do need some tossing room. This is my company salad bowl. So great big salad. Then have a serving of dark leafy greens, kale, collards, arugula, because that is where you're going to get the minerals, the protein. Did you know that dark leafy greens have more protein per calorie than meat? And they have everything else in them that's going to make you healthy and vital and young forever. Then have a cabbage family vegetable, because there are phytochemicals that prevent disease in those cabbage family vegetables that you can't get anywhere else. Now, kale, being a superstar, is both a dark green leafy and a cabbage family vegetable, but there's also Brussels sprouts and broccoli and cabbage and cauliflower and bok choy and whatever, so have some of that. Then, says Dr. T, have a nice fruit salad, fruits in season, all colorful, whatever it is that you enjoy. And if you're hungry during the day, just have some more fruit. Have a serving of beans. If you're a raw person, you can sprout them. Otherwise, you just have beans on toast, or chili, or beans and cornbread, or beans and rice. There's so many things you can do with beans, and they are so cheap. It's the only food that you can buy, and you soak them, and they swell up, and you get more than you paid for. Everything else shrinks, whether it's meat or vegetables. Only beans swell up. And then, he says, have a serving of some sort of whole grain. And we know about grains now that we never heard of before. Who knew about quinoa and millet and farro and stuff like that? But you know, oatmeal and rice, they work too. And then he says, have some nuts and seeds. They're concentrated, they're high in fats, but they're good fats. And if you're somebody who's trying to lose weight or you're not a very large person, a couple tablespoons are fine. If you're an athlete, like some of these amazing bodybuilders we have in the other room, then you know, you can have more. Have a third of a cup, have a half of a cup if you're running and training. And after that, says Dr. T, have whatever you want. So that gives you your beautiful foundation of what you need, and you're really not going to want a lot of the other stuff. So add to your life, add experiences. When we have our academy in New York City, we don't just have classes, we take people on field trips. So we go to restaurants. We go to a vegan coat boutique in Williamsburg, Brooklyn called Haute Couture. We go to Moose Shoes, a vegan shoe store. We go to Baby Cakes, a vegan bakery, because you want to have life and color. You don't want to say, well, I went to New York City. I saw the Empire State Building and my hotel room, because you know I'm a vegan. There's just not much to do. Don't want to do that. It's just the opposite. And finally, never forget the animals. So who in here would say that you are interested in being vegan, or you are vegan, at least 50% because of the animals? 40%? Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of thought for these beings who have more invested in our dinner than we do. Because we're going to have thousands and thousands of dinners in a lifetime. And some of them are going to be on airplanes and not be very good at all. And some of them are going to be fabulous. But basically, it's just one dinner. But if there is an animal on that plate, or if there is an animal secretion that caused them to be separated from their babies, or whatever goes on, that means everything. That's just not one dinner. That's life and death. Now, some people will say, yeah, but they're animals. I know that, but I can't make an animal. Do I have the right to kill one? I don't think so. So I would just like to share a story with you about a cow. It was, whoa, a while ago, it was over 20 years ago, I was widowed, had a little girl, 4 years old, and I decided that life would be simpler if I moved to the country. So I moved from Kansas City, Missouri to the central Missouri Ozarks. And it was different down there. I do remember the first time I went to the grocery store, the woman just stopped the belt and she looked at what I was buying and she said, I've had this job near 15 years and I've never seen such pretty groceries. So that was cool. I had pretty groceries, but I was also kind of a fish out of water. I didn't really have skills for living in a rural area, but I met some really great people. And I was talking with one of them one day and I said, you know, I've been vegan for a while now, vegetarian a really long time, but I don't really know what goes on in a slaughterhouse because I've never been to one. She said, oh, my husband has a friend who owns a slaughterhouse. If you smiled real pretty, he'd show you anything you want to see. Well, I smiled till my jaws ached. That man became Virgil, and I became Dante. And that day, we spent in hell. We're all decked up like we were going to do surgery. The hat, and the mask, and the shoes. And we went in to this refrigerator that was kind of like one of those haunted houses you go in at Halloween time, but this was for real. I will never forget the screams or the smells. I'll never forget how those carcasses went past the USDA guy so fast, and he was like, okay, 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 when he couldn't even see the other side. And I will never forget how I felt for the workers. I didn't go there expecting to identify and empathize with the guys who were working there, but they were standing ankle deep in blood in a refrigerator working with these sharp implements. And what I realized was in that little Missouri town that had been bypassed by the interstate and the railroad, there was no place else to go. So by the end of the day, I'd had pretty much all I could take. And I went outside, and they were bringing in these last few cows. Now, a lot of people these days will say, well, I only eat happy meat. I only eat the meat from the small organic farms. Well, you know what? As a transitional thing, that is fantastic. If you are just absolutely never, ever, ever in all your natural life going to stop eating meat, then better to eat that kind of meat than the factory farm meat. But they all end up at the same place. So these cows were just coming in from a dairy farm. They were used up dairy cows, and they were walking up the ramp that was going to be the last walk they'd ever take. Well, this one cow was not having any of it. She was halfway up that ramp and she just stopped because she heard the screams and she smelled the smells that I'd been hearing and smelling all day, and every instinct was telling her, you don't go there. But the man with the captive bolt pistol, he whistled to her. He whistled to her the way he would whistle to his dog when he went home that evening, and she kind of cocked her head like, are you sure? And she walked to her death, having just exhibited this very human trait of trust. Now, when her parts and pieces showed up in a supermarket in St. Louis, in the styrofoam cradle and wrapped in the cellophane, they were bought by nice people. These are people like we were or we are, people who would do anything for you, people who are the salt of the earth, but people who didn't know this cow. Well, I knew her very briefly at the end of her life, and because I did, it's my obligation to share with you her story. Billions of animals die every year for meat and dairy and eggs and leather and wool and so much else that we take for granted. Let's learn about this. See where you come down on this. How does it affect you? Do you want to be part of it? Do you want to be supporting these industries? Or do you want to do something different? And if you want to do something different, you are in a perfect place today to learn how to do it differently, healthfully, deliciously, and with really good friends. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm thrilled to be a part of this.